Diversity. Diversity and equality. To me, it's society's biggest oxymoron. It is the irregardless of society's big push. And we want equality for everyone, but we practice and preach diversity. We have to have a diversity training. Hey, let's have training where we teach everybody how different they are, so then maybe they can feel more equal. It makes zero sense. We're going to teach you how different you are to make you feel the same? That doesn't make sense. You know, when I break down the word diversity, and I've never been a big fan of this, when I break down the word diversity, I pull two words out of it. And I might be wrong. I'm no theologist, and I don't study words and the root cause of words or anything like that. But when I look at the word diversity, I come up with two words: divide and versus. Diversity, divide and versus. We are training people in these classes and sessions on diversity how to recognize the differences that pull us apart and separate us. And we spend so much time focusing on our skin colors and other ethnicities and our religions and our choices as far as love is concerned. We spend so much time focusing on the differences. I think we're wasting our time. And I think society has got it all wrong. We've got it all wrong. We're looking at this in the wrong way. So I recently read the book, It's Your Ship. Anybody in management or who has goals of being in management should read this book. It's a great book about a naval captain who turned the ship around by really writing his own textbook on leadership and the way things should be. It's great. One of the things he did was he did away with the mandated diversity training, and he came up with unity training, which is absolutely what I believe we should be doing. Unity training he did. Instead of focusing on our differences, dividing us, versus, let's focus on unity. What makes us the same? Let's focus on the things that we have in common. Recently listened to a podcast with Tony Robbins and Pastor Miles McPherson from San Diego from the Rock Church. He wrote a book called The Third Option. Miles McPherson is a very well-respected pastor and former NFL athlete, smart guy, and he feels the same way. You know, we need to focus on what makes us the same, not what makes us different. Honor the differences, but focus on what makes us the same. And in this podcast with Tony Robbins and Miles McPherson speaking to each other, they mentioned how when it comes down to our basic DNA, the actual core structure of the human body, we are 99.5% identical. There's only a 0.5% difference in our DNA that changes us, that makes us black, white, Hispanic, whatever the case may be. So here we focus on this 5% and we have 99.5%. Here's a funny thing to me, and my wife kind of said it to me last night, and we had a good chuckle about it. Here we are worried about we're the 99% and the 1% should be, taxed harder and give to the rest, and we're worried about the 0.5% instead of the 99% here. Let's focus on a 99.5%. Let's focus on what makes us the same. So in this book, It's Your Ship, he discovered that jazz is something that, it goes from every race. There's white people who love jazz, and there's black people who love jazz. And by focusing on this, they created a jazz club on this ship, and before you knew it, you had all races hanging out, listening to jazz, partying together, and all those walls fell down. The differences weren't there anymore. So, about a month back, uh, Father Kenneth from Pious Church in Badalape, Nigeria, graduated with his master's degree from Notre Dame. And he brought his whole family up from Nigeria. His mom and his dad and his sister and brother-in-law and his niece all came up from Nigeria to celebrate the extremely amazing achievement of him graduating from Notre Dame with his master's degree. So on Sunday we had a graduation reception at church for him. And after Mass, which was awesome because his family brought the gifts up and they did it in a very traditional way, and it was very moving. After Mass, there's this nice ceremony or reception, and everybody's hanging out and eating cake and having a good time. And my daughter, who's going to be 4 in a matter of days, made friends with OC. OC is Father Kenneth's niece from Nigeria. Beautiful little Nigerian girl with these beautiful long braids. She was wearing this beautiful purple Sunday dress. And she came up very sheepishly and kind of stood next to Rosalita and didn't say much. But Rosalita offered to share some of the food off of her plate, and they kind of broke the ice and they started to look at each other and they started to kind of say one word here and one word there. You could tell OC was still being very shy. And then Rosalita said, should we get cake? And they ran off and they got cake together. And Rosalita ate the frosting off her cake. OC peeled the frosting off of her cake and only ate the cake, not the frosting. And Rosalita comes up to Kelly and says to Kelly, my wife, Mommy, my heart is telling me something. My heart is telling me something. And we said, well, honey, what's your heart telling you? She says, it's telling me I found a new friend. So now here it is, 2 little girls, 4 years old, from opposite ends of the world. They've become friends. So we asked OC's mom, is it okay if we take her out to the playground here on the church grounds and let the girls play for a while? She said, absolutely, don't worry about it. Let's, let them go and have fun. So we went out and kind of monitored them while they played. They played and they played and they played, and they were having a blast. And OC kept on referring to Rosalita as her sister. She kept saying, my sister and I are going to do this. Now my sister and I are going to do the slide. Now my sister and I are going to do the swings. Push my sister and I on the swings. How awesome and innocent and great was that? There's nothing greater than to see the 2 children like this from complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Badalape in Nigeria is a very poor area. Not rich by any means. And Rosalita comes from a middle-class suburban family in Wisconsin. But these 2, none of that mattered. They just became friends, sisters. And they played and had so much fun. And I talked to our father, Father Augustine. I said, how great is this that these 2 became such friends? Father Augustine said, it's amazing that happened, because just 2 years ago when I met OC, she wouldn't even come by me. Father Augustine being a white male, later in age, when he went to Nigeria, he was the first white person many people in this community had ever seen. Definitely the first person OC had ever seen. And she was very standoffish at first, but by the end of his visit, she was madly in love with him. She thought he was the greatest person in the history of the world. And they became fast friends. Turn the pages forward, and she's making great friends with Rosalita. There's no you're different than I am in this. There was nothing, none of that existed. It was just that 2 of them wanted to be friends. Miles McPherson has a challenge in his book, The Third Option. And in his book, he says, I challenge you to go up to somebody who's different than you. Somebody who's, if you're white, they're black. If you're black, they're white. If you're straight, they're gay. Whatever the case may be, go up to that person and share your love with them. Tell them you love them. Tell them you respect them. By doing this, you put a face, you put a relationship in place of that, I'm doing air quotes here, diversity, the differences, the verses. By putting this person in place of the differences, you now create this relationship. So now anytime you look at that race and you maybe want to think down on it or think bad about that race or that sexual orientation, you have a face that you have to think, I want to hate this person too. If I want to be prejudiced and I just want to think badly about that segment of people, I have to dislike this person who I told I love, who I embraced, who I brought into my life. Some people claim that racism it's fear-based. Well, that's learned then, because we're only born with two fears: fear of falling, fear of loud noises. As a white person, I'm sure of it that a black person is not a fall from a tall height, nor a loud noise. They're simply another race. And if I were to tell you that I'm afraid of black people, that's a learned thing. Maybe I learned it from the news. Maybe I learned it from my parents, which, disclaimer, I did not learn it from my parents. But we learn this hatred, this fear of the different. It's not born in us. It's not natural. Sure, we can be apprehensive about things that are different, but that works for a 4-year-old child from Nigeria. She can be apprehensive. She's never seen somebody with white skin before. If you're in America, there's no reason for an adult to be apprehensive about another race or another religion or another sexual orientation. It's been all around you your whole life. So with that, I extend to you Miles McPherson's challenge. Share your love, which is also something we're born with, is the ability to love. Share your love with someone who's different than you. Share your love if you're white with a black person. Say, I love you. You're my brother. You're my sister. Share your love with somebody who has a different sexual orientation than you. I love you. You're my brother. You're my sister. We need to break down these walls of diversity, this idea that we have to be different. We need to openly accept how we're the same. So all this preaching and all this talking about this, you're wondering, why does this tie into back to the basics? Why does this tie into my overall message? I've talked to you about wasted emotions, wasting efforts. If you truly have to feel hate in your body for somebody who's different than you, you're wasting time and emotion. Get a little preachy, a little churchy here, but God said to love all. God said to love thy brother, love thy neighbor as I have loved you. That's unconditional. He didn't say love thy neighbor, but not the ones that don't look like you, or not the ones that don't feel like you, not the ones that don't praise like you. Love thy neighbor, all inclusive. Love thy neighbor. We as humans are born with love in our hearts. It's natural. And it feels so much better to share that love than to create hate, go through the effort of creating hate, sharing that hate, and helping someone else create more hate. Folks, I'm asking you, take Miles McPherson's challenge. Love someone who's different. Embrace the 99.5% that makes us the same. Stop being diverse. Stop being divided. Stop having to be white versus black, straight versus gay. Share the love that naturally exists in your heart with everybody. all of your neighbors, all of your brothers, and all of your sisters. It's only natural.